Hey, what's going on YouTube? Son of Sanguinius here, and today we're going to be continuing our Blood Angels Tactics videos with a look at the Devastator Squad. So again, like the Assault Squad, I am currently looking at the data slate entry from the Angels Blade supplement. The Devastator Squad data slate in the Angels Blade supplement does replace the one in the Blood Angels Codex. So that is what I'm going to be looking at, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So the Devastator Squad comes in at 70 points. They are Weapon Skill 4, Ballistic Skill 4, Strength 4, Toughness 4, 1 Wound, Initiative 4, 1 Attack, Leadership 8 with a 3-up Armor save. The Sergeant is the same thing. The Veteran Sergeant has 2 attacks instead of 1, and is Leadership 9 instead of Leadership 8. So for war gear, they have bolt guns, bolt pistols, frag and crack grenades, and the Space Marine Sergeant or the Veteran Sergeant has a Signum. For special rules here, they have And They Shall Know No Fear, Combat Squads, and Furious Charge. For options, they may include up to 5 additional Space Marines for 14 points per model. Up to 4 Space Marines may replace their bolt guns with one of the following items from the heavy weapons lists: Grav Cannon and Grav Amp for 35 points per model. The unit may take an Armorium Cherub for 5 points. You may upgrade the Space Marine Sergeant to a Veteran Sergeant for 10 points. The Space Marine Sergeant or Veteran Sergeant may take items from the melee weapons and or range weapons lists. And the, Space Marine Sergeant or Veteran Sergeant may take Melta Bombs for 5 points. And finally, the unit may select a Drop Pod, Rhino, or Razorback as a dedicated transport. So, as I've talked about in some of my other tactics videos, oftentimes, Blood Angels armies, they tend to be very infantry focus, and we tend to lean, more towards close combat, obviously. But this can lead to a real lack of fire support in our armies. And Devastator Squads, well, perhaps not the most, the most thematic as far as Blood Angels units go. Devastator Squads can provide a nice array of both anti-armor and anti-infantry fire support in our armies. So going down the list as far as the heavy weapons are concerned, I don't have the actual points costs in front of me, but I did write down all of the weapons that you can pick for your Devastator Squad. So as far as heavy weapons go, first up, you got heavy bolters. Heavy bolters, obviously, some great anti-infantry support. You can sort of thin down some of your enemy's infantry units before you charge in with your Assault Marines or Death Company or Sanguinary Guard or Assault Terminators, whatever Assault Marine or Assault Unit rather that you wish to use. Next up, multi-meltas, pretty good for mid to short range anti-armor, and I say short range because really to gain the benefit of the Melta special rule, you got to be within 12 for multi-meltas, and when you really think about it, I suppose it kind of makes sense in some ways to use your Devastator Squads sort of aggressively like that. If you brought them down in something like drop pods or something like that, which I probably wouldn't do, but if you did choose to do something like that, multi-meltas might be your thing. So some good, mid to short range anti-armor firepower there. Next up, plasma cannons. Obviously, blast templates are nice, and Strength 7 AP2 blast templates are really nice. And with plasma cannons, you can pretty much threaten almost anything. Sorry, I don't know, something fell or something off my desk here. But anyway, so plasma cannons, kind of the sort of catch-all thing I really see, although they are somewhat unreliable. And there is another upcoming choice that can sort of fulfill that sort of more versatile role, and that is missile launchers. So honestly, I think for the points, missile launchers are in some ways the best options. They're kind of the cheapest and the most versatile way to go, and you can also take flak missiles with the missile launcher, so keep that in mind. Not only can you get anti-armor and anti-infantry out of missile launchers, but you can also get some much-needed anti-air. Not that anyone really plays with it, as far as I'm aware, but there was that Skies of Death, or whatever it was called, supplement that GW put out, a while back that was like, hey, this replaces all the rules for flyers, and everyone was sort of like, no, GW. Bad GW. That's not that's not how you release a new rule set, GW. Put it in 8th edition if you really want it. And we will be talking about 8th edition on this channel when that comes up, but be that as it may. So missile launchers, cheap, versatile. You can pretty much threaten anything with them. Same thing with the plasma cannons. The real difference between the two is A, cost, and B, missile launchers don't really have a chance to blow up in your face. Next up we got las cannons. Really great, really strong ranged anti-armor. If you want to be able to take out, land raiders, or you want to be, able to take out, maybe not so much super heavies, but to at least be able to threaten land raiders, or anything that's armor 13, armor 14, or equivalent. Las cannons are definitely the way to go, especially if you use them the way I would like to use Devastators, which is, sort of keep them in the backfield, hunker them down in some cover, maybe in a building or something like that, and just have them lay in shots at range, because really, because we don't have access to the Skyhammer Annihilation Force, unfortunately, because GW doesn't think that highly of Blood Angels, apparently. It's really disconcerting to know that Ultramarines can, assault better out of drop pods than Blood Angels can, but be that as it may, that just sort of means that we, as far as Devastator Squads go, as far as using them, we would tend to sort of use them in a more traditional role, just sort of hunkering them down in the backfield and laying down shots from afar, rather than dropping them down in a drop pod and just having them unleash lead and hell upon the enemy at point blank range. But be that as it may, the next one is the new one that we got out of Angel's Blade, which is the grav cannons with the grav amps. And these, again, they're not as good since we can't take them in the Skyhammer Annihilation Force. However, grav cannons can certainly be used to great effect to threaten heavy infantry, things like Terminators, Space Marines, those type of units and their equivalents. They can also threaten vehicles to a moderate degree, considering how many shots you're going to be dishing out. I believe it's, 5 shots with grav cannons with the grav amp, so you can re-roll to try and get 6s to take out a hull point on vehicles. So it can be pretty good against vehicles, although frankly the main benefit is, of course, using against heavy infantry. Grav cannons and pretty much all grav weapons are definitely going to be your Terminator killers, your Marine killers, and everything that's equivalent. So, as you can see, there's a pretty diverse array of weapons that Devastator Squads can choose from, and frankly, you as the Blood Angel player, or I guess, maybe a Space Marine player if you're watching this, you can sort of, pick whichever heavy weapons, would most benefit you in your current army list. Some of you might actually like, the heavy bolter fire support, and that's perfectly fine. Others of you may like the plasma cannons with all the blast templates. Others of you may like the las cannons. Others may like the missile launchers. Frankly, I can see, all of these certainly having a place in a list. It really just depends on what else you're bringing in your army list. So, moving on from that, just a couple more things to go over. First up, the Armorium Cherub is, I think, also something new we got in the new data slate entry from Angel's Blade. I don't think we could take the Armorium Cherub before. I'll have to double check that. Maybe one of you guys can tell me down below in the comments. But it's a nice little bonus, nice little reroll, and it's for 5 points. I really don't see why not if you can spare the 5 points. The other thing too is talking about the Sergeant. Now the Sergeant, honestly, I think would be fine bare bones, because really. I really don't see, gearing up the Sergeant with anything in particular. Maybe a combi weapon, but really, you're probably going to be out of range with most things anyway. The only exception to that would be if you ran multi-meltas in like a drop pod or something, and you deep striked right into the heart of the enemy. And you disembarked and you were like within 12, and then I could maybe see like a plasma pistol or something. But chances are you're going to be pretty far out if you're using Devastator Squads how I would use them, which is again it's just sort of hunkering them down, keep them in the backfield, and lay down some fire support for the rest of your army. So the Sergeant, really, I don't really see upgrading him, with anything. I should also probably mention squad size too. Really, the only reason I can see why you would, throw on some more Marines onto the unit is if you wanted to basically sort of have them as extra wounds, to sort of take away from your unit without losing any of the heavy weapons that you've spent points for. You could kind of use them as more effectively if you wanted to basically run Devastator squads like tac squads and rhinos or something like that, and have them disembark, and you have basically a whole mess of heavy bolters rocking alongside regular bolters. I can kind of see that, although that sounds more like Imperial Fists than it does Blood Angels. But anyway, be that as it may, I would normally just try and stick with a squad of 5 guys myself. But obviously, you are free to choose and kit them out how you want. So lastly, just the last couple of things to go over here. Really, I would keep them in the backfield. I know some people do like to run them in drop pods, especially with the Skyhammer Annihilation Force. Unfortunately, we don't have that for some reason or another. I'm not quite sure why. Last time I checked, Blood Angels were a Codex chapter, and the Skyhammer Annihilation Force is something I think that Gilliman wrote about. He's like, hey, it'd be great, guys. Grav weapons, drop pods, assault marines with eviscerators. Hey, that is the way to go. And I guess Commander Dante is like, nah, we don't need to do that or something. I don't know what's up with that. I highly doubt that Commander Dante would not take a Skyhammer Annihilation Force. He seems to be a very pragmatic chapter master there. But be that as it may, I would keep my Devastators in the backfield, laying down some fire support, whatever their weapons may be. And really, all I got left to say is, keep the unit focused. So I would probably not mix and match the heavy weapons too much. I would probably just, sort of have them all one. That way they can lay out, decent, reliable firepower. And other than that, just keep them in cover, because your opponent, as soon as he starts seeing, all these multi-meltas or plasma cannon shots coming his way, he's not going to waste any time trying to take out your Devastator squads. And sometimes that's going to mean volume of dice, or sometimes that's going to mean heavy ordnance, being brought down on them to get past their 3-up armor save. So either way, keep the unit focused, put them in cover, and that's really all I got to say on this in this video. So I'm curious to see what you guys have to say down below in the comments. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.